No one noticed her when she arrived. That was the cruelest part. Not the whispers, not the sideways glances, not even the way conversations lowered their volume when she walked past. It was the certainty that, to everyone in that glittering room, she was invisible by design. The party was the kind people like to call exclusive. Crystal chandeliers spilled light like liquid gold. A string quartet played softly near the balcony. The air smelled of expensive perfume and unspoken hierarchies. Every guest wore confidence tailored by money, status, or proximity to power. And yet, standing near the refreshment table in a simple navy blue dress was a black woman no one wanted to acknowledge. They didn't know her name. They didn't ask. They assumed. What none of them realized was that this night, this single, awkward, quietly humiliating evening, would become the moment their assumptions collapsed in front of them. Because later that night, a billionaire would walk into the room, scan the crowd, smile, and say her name out loud. And everything would change. Her name was Alina Brooks. She almost didn't come. The invitation had arrived 3 weeks earlier in thick ivory cardstock, edged with gold. It had been addressed formally, as if the sender wasn't quite sure who she was, but knew she mattered enough to be included. Alina read it twice, then a third time, letting the words settle. Annual Winter Benefactors Gala. Black tie optional. RSVP enclosed. She turned the card over, expecting clarification, a reason, perhaps, but there was none. Probably a mistake, she murmured to herself. That had been her reflex her entire life. When doors opened unexpectedly, she assumed they would slam shut just as fast. Experience had taught her that surprise invitations often came with hidden conditions. Still, curiosity tugged at her. She called the number on the card. The assistant on the other end confirmed her name, without hesitation. Yes, Ms. Brooks. We have you on the list.
No explanation.
No details. Just certainty. For days, Alina debated whether to attend. She knew rooms like that one. She knew how they felt, polished, smiling, and quietly hostile. She knew the looks people gave when they tried to place her and failed. Who is she? Why is she here? Did she come with someone important? In the end, she chose to go, not because she wanted to prove anything, but because she was tired of shrinking. The night of the gala, Alina stood in front of her mirror longer than usual. She didn't own a designer gown. She didn't need one. Her dress was elegant, understated, and well-fitted. Her hair was pulled back neatly. She wore no flashy jewelry, just a single bracelet her mother had given her years ago. When she arrived, the valet took her keys without comment, but his eyes lingered a second too long. Inside, the room hummed with practiced ease. People laughed loudly, but listened carefully. Compliments were exchanged like currency. Everyone seemed to know exactly where they belonged, except her. Alina took a step forward. No one greeted her. A woman near the entrance glanced at her badge, then quickly turned away. 2 men stopped talking when she approached, resuming only after she passed. She made her way to the side of the room, pretending to admire the decor while scanning faces. She recognized none of them, and they made sure she knew she wasn't recognized either. Being ignored isn't loud. It doesn't announce itself. It's a choreography of small movements, eyes that slide away, conversations that close, bodies that turn just enough to block you out. Alina felt every one of them. When she reached for a glass of water, a woman stepped in front of her without apology. When she tried to join a conversation about philanthropy, the circle tightened. No one was overtly rude. That was the point. Overt rudeness could be confronted. This could not. She stood alone, listening to fragments of conversations she was never meant to join. She must be someone's assistant. Maybe a plus one? I don't recognize her. Each comment landed softly, but cut deep. Still, Alina didn't leave. She sipped her drink.
She breathed.
She waited. She had learned long ago that dignity didn't require permission. What no one at the party knew was that Alina Brooks had built her life quietly. She didn't come from money. Her mother worked 2 jobs. Her father had left early. Scholarships, discipline, and relentless focus carried her through college and beyond. Alina didn't chase attention. She chased impact. For over a decade, she had worked behind the scenes in finance, not the flashy kind that made headlines, but the kind that stabilized communities, funded overlooked entrepreneurs, and turned fragile ideas into sustainable realities. She avoided interviews. She declined awards. She believed the work mattered more than the recognition. And because of that, few people knew her face. But some people knew her name. The room shifted before anyone announced it. Conversations paused. Laughter softened. Phones discreetly disappeared into pockets. A man had entered. Elliot Kane. Billionaire. Philanthropist. A man whose presence recalibrated rooms without effort. Alina noticed the change immediately, though she didn't turn around right away.
She didn't need to.
She felt it, the collective attention pulling toward one point. When she finally looked, she saw him shaking hands, smiling easily, moving with familiarity through the crowd. Then he stopped. His gaze traveled and landed on her. Elliot Kane smiled. Not the polite smile he gave donors. Not the diplomatic smile reserved for press photos. This one was genuine. He stepped away from the cluster surrounding him and walked straight toward Alina. People noticed. Whispers sparked. Who is she? Why is he going over there? Alina straightened instinctively, unsure whether she should move or stay still. Then he spoke. Alina Brooks, he said clearly. Her name echoed louder than any announcement. The room froze. Elliot reached out his hand. I was hoping you'd come, he said. Alina shook his hand calmly, though her heart raced. I almost didn't, she replied. He laughed softly. I'm glad you did. I've been telling people all night that none of this would exist without you. The effect was immediate. Faces turned. Eyes widened. The same people who had ignored her minutes earlier suddenly leaned in. Did he say what I think he said? Without her? Elliot turned slightly, addressing those nearby. For those of you who don't know, he said, his voice calm but firm, Alina is the architect behind the community investment model we're all so proud of tonight. Murmurs spread. That initiative saved 3 of my companies, someone whispered. Elliot continued. She designed it. She funded the pilot. She insisted it remain anonymous. He looked at her with respect. I couldn't convince her to take credit then. But tonight, I'm done letting that slide. Alina met his gaze. Elliot, she said quietly. He smiled. Too late. The shift was almost painful to witness. The woman who had stepped in front of her earlier now hovered nearby, eager. The men who closed their circle suddenly opened it wide. Compliments arrived, awkward, rushed, performative. Alina accepted them with grace but no illusion. She knew exactly why they were speaking to her now. And she knew exactly how they hadn't before. Later that evening, Elliot and Alina stood near the balcony, away from the noise. You okay? He asked. She nodded. I've been in worse rooms. He frowned. That shouldn't be something you're used to. She smiled sadly. Yet here we are. Elliot leaned on the railing. I invited you because people need to see what leadership actually looks like. She raised an eyebrow. And humiliation was part of the lesson? He exhaled. I hoped it wouldn't come to that. But sometimes exposure is unavoidable. Alina considered this. Then let them learn, she said. Names anchor us. They interrupt assumptions. When Elliot said Alina's name, he did more than introduce her. He validated her existence in a space that had denied it. Suddenly, she wasn't that woman. She was Alina Brooks. And that made all the difference. By the end of the night, Alina had been invited to more meetings than she could count. She accepted none on the spot. Instead, she thanked people politely and left early. Outside, the cold air felt honest. Her phone buzzed. A message from Elliot. Thank you for trusting the room, even when it didn't deserve you. She typed back. Thank you for saying my name. This wasn't just a story about a party. It was a story about how easily bias hides behind etiquette. About how many brilliant people are ignored because they don't fit the expected image of success. And about the power of recognition, real recognition, to disrupt that pattern. We owe each other curiosity. We owe each other respect before proof. And we owe it to ourselves to speak names aloud, especially when silence benefits injustice. That night, a room learned a lesson it never intended to. A black woman stood exactly where she belonged all along. And when her name was spoken, the illusion shattered.
Not because she changed.
But because the room finally did. True power doesn't announce itself loudly. Sometimes it waits quietly until someone says its name.